So is Sacramento City or suburb better for you? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're gonna kind of just dive into, if you're moving to the area, would it be better for you to live in the city, or would you be, better off going out to the suburbs? Just kind of put everything into kind of context here. When I'm talking about Sacramento, I'm kind of including all of Sacramento, going from like East Sacramento. We're talking about the pockets. We're going into Arden area, even kind of pushing out even to like the Carmichael area, right? So taking all of that and then kind of going to the outskirts of that and calling the suburbs, right? So we're talking like Elk Grove, Roseville, El Dorado Hills, Folsom, some of the more outskirts area. So with that said, let's dive into this. So really, when we're looking at this, I'm also talking about where we're actually even seeing a lot of our clients. I will say most of our clients, when they come out to the area, they end up living usually in the suburbs. One of the big driving factors for all of this is really the commute. If you're having to do that commute, really you're only about 30 minutes from any of these suburbs. And I have complained about the commute here and there on some of the other videos, but it's really not that bad. Not when you're comparing it to like San Francisco, Bay Area type traffic or LA type traffic. It's a pretty smooth drive. I just complain because I've just gotten used to this, pretty much used to our traffic around here, but it's really not that bad. Within 30 minutes, you're pretty much anywhere and everywhere. I mean, the farthest out you're gonna really see is probably like Rancho Marietta, which I think is 45 minutes, and that's on a commute day, right? Other than that, if we're going any farther, if we're getting out to an hour, you're talking about getting way up by like Diamond Springs, something like that, where you're never really gonna be using that as your commuting center. And one of the things that you gotta remember too about the Sacramento or the Sacramento metro area in particular, is not one of those things that you have to actually live in the city to really get that value, right? Get your resale value later on. Because of the schooling systems, because of some of the other stuff that's happening on the outskirts, you're really able to preserve your property value. So we do have, like I say, a lot of people just choose by the time they kind of weigh all options to live in these outskirts areas. Now, another thing to really kind of dive into and talk about is, or I guess our point number 2 would really be the type of house or the style of house that you're going to get when you are in the city compared to when you are actually in the suburbs. So if you're in Sacramento, especially as you move more and more into that heart of it, even when we get into some of these outer skirts areas, until you kind of really push into like the Fair Oaks and just, Carmichael too, into Orangeville, you really get smaller lots, right? This is where you're gonna get those tutors, those bungalows. You're gonna really get a smaller lot for the most part, or I should say really a narrow lot. And you also are going to kind of really have those lower ceilings. You're gonna have smaller rooms just because houses back when they were built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, this is just what they provided back then. So a lot of the roof lines are gonna be a lot shorter. The rooms are gonna be a lot smaller. You're not gonna get that walk-in closet, but I will say, when you do choose one of these houses in that downtown area, you do have a lot more character, and we are seeing a revival in these things. If they have the roof line, people are deciding to move that ceiling up. So there are options out there. The other thing to note too is, when there is an event going on, a lot of people choose the suburb and they're going out there because when there's events and stuff going on, in the Sacramento area, say like a Kings game, if you're living in that surrounding neighborhood, you really could get congested with vehicles, with traffic, right? I mean, it gets to the point where people are parking so far out because they don't want to pay to, say, get into some of these parking centers because it's so expensive, that they will park in these neighborhoods, which is perfectly legal. But now when you come home from work, or if you need to leave and you want to go jump over to the grocery store, unfortunately your street's going to be packed. So you got to remember that when you're living in these areas, or at least pick a strategic area that if you want to live that there, maybe you're not going to have to deal with that. But I mean, I will tell you, it gets to the point where your neighbors even are renting out their driveways for people to park when it's game night, just to make a few extra bucks, which clutters the driveway. The other thing too, the difference between the suburbs and the city, depending on where you're at, for the most part, I mean, you may love the neighborhood, but you may not want to live right next door to a commercial building. Again, that's going to really kind of depend on where the house is at, but we've seen this. I mean, some of the nicest neighborhoods I've actually seen in the Sacramento area, it's beautiful. It looks like a park, but you look at down the street and it's a completely industrial area that's down there. Might not be something that you really want, but then again, you might want the convenience of a walking square where you can just walk down the street, grab some groceries, and walk right back home. Where if you get into the suburbs, this is going to be a little bit more planned out. You're not going to have an industrial park really in your backyard. You're going to really have those, industrial parks in their industrial area. Usually going to have some sort of green space or border between the two before you even hit into a neighborhood. So just the convenience of that, a lot of people do like. I will say with that, the proximity of it though is pretty cool, because if you're in that downtown area, like I was just saying, if you want to hit your grocery store, or if you're just looking to say, jump over to some of these Kings games or something like that, they're right there. And that kind of gets me over to that recreation, right? So recreation, and we're talking about grocery stores to nightlife to sporting events, it's all right there. When you're in Sacramento, there's so much to enjoy. They've got these huge, large parks that you can just walk down to. I mean, you've got the Railroad Museum right there. You got Crocker Museum right there. You got the State Capitol. You have the Sutter Forts that are out there. So you can go out there, really enjoy that. The zoo is also out there. So there's a lot of things to do when you're in that Sacramento area, especially the downtown area, which is probably one of the coolest things that I've seen develop, especially just talk about our food scene. I mean, that has completely changed within the last 10 years. So you get a lot in your area that you can get to very quickly, whether that's on, say, a jump bike, or if you're just gonna get in the car or just walk, you're hitting some sort of event. I mean, even the farmers markets, they have this farm markets in the suburbs, but usually you're having to drive. Here, it's right there on Capitol Avenue, where all of the Capitol basically sits back, and as your backdrop, you've got the bridge on the other side, and you got vendors, you got your fruits, vegetables, all locally grown right there. And like I say, you grab your bags, fill it up, get on your bike, and you can head on home. Where in the suburbs, we do have still a lot of stuff going on because of, I would say, almost the amount of families that have moved out there. We've got water parks, we've got shopping, we've got, of course, the trails that they've kind of really built into these neighborhoods. You've got sports complexes, but all of this is a little bit more spread out. And from time to time, you're actually having to drive to the next area. Like I'll take Roseville and Rockland for one example, is you're hopping from one city to the next, and then all of a sudden you got to jump over to Folsom for some sort of a train or whatever it is. But that's where the city all really has it, anything that you're really looking for in a couple block area. I will say we're very active, and I don't care Sacramento or surrounding area, we are a very active community in all. So if you're looking for like a gym, that's probably going to be the easiest thing to find, whether you're in the suburbs or the city. We've got anything from rock crawling to those CrossFit gyms to what do they got out there? Orange Theory, the F45s. I mean, whatever your heart desires, all the way to the major, lifestyle type gyms are out there. So there is a lot for gyms wise. There's a lot of trails. There's a lot of biking. We've got all the rivers to enjoy. So really depending on where you're at, if you're in the city, you're going to be able to get to those rivers pretty quickly and get onto some of those American River trails. Where if you're, depending on where you're at in the suburbs, you may have to drive to get to some of these different areas. Now, the last thing I would say you've really got to take into consideration, and I'm going to go there with the kids. We've got kids, we've got 2 of them. So one of the things on our mind and a lot of the clients that we deal with, of course, is schools and school districts, right? So we've done a video on this. We've named some of the top school districts in the area. Of course, that's going to be Roseville Joint, Rockland Unified, you got the Folsom District, and then of course you've got Elk Grove. So those are probably our top ones. If you notice there, I didn't really talk much about the Sacramento district itself. Now, you gotta look into this yourself, go to greatschools.org, because it really does vary. I will say if you're in kind of the suburbs, overall from elementary all the way up to high school, really there's been a big emphasis on the school system and really making sure that all these schools are in those, say, like A ratings for the most part. But once you hit Sacramento, it really does vary. I mean, you might have one area where elementary schools aren't exactly up to par where you want them to be, but the high school's the best, or vice versa. The elementaries are great, but the high school may be lacking. And you really, like I said, you gotta look at it. I will say I've met with a lot of different teachers in a lot of different districts. I've personally never met a teacher that has not cared about their students and getting their grades going, but there's just different amenities offered to the children, different after school programs that I think really can help kind of excel some of these students. So keeping that in mind, you do have to really pay attention to your different areas. Now, I'm talking about A ratings down to, say, B ratings. Again, it's not that bad. I'm just being really nitpicky for a lot of you guys, just because of most of you guys that we are working with right now are asking us about the school question. Where do you move for the best school districts? Well, those are the top ones that we're seeing in our area. Like I say, other than that, you really got to choose where you want to be and look into some of these websites, which can give you a little bit better breakdown of exactly what you're going to have. But again, to me, a 7 out of 10 or a B rating or B minus rating is not really that bad. It could have been that they just got bad test scores one year and didn't, for whatever reason. Heck, we just went through COVID, which really dropped a lot of the scores, especially for Sacramento, just because they were locked down a lot more than, say, Placer County or El Dorado County. So you're gonna see Sacramento County get a little bit more hurt with their test scores, because either one, they didn't do them, or two, they're trying to catch some of the kids up because they stayed out of school a little bit longer. Where again, Placer County and El Dorado County, which is going to include kind of your El Dorado Hills, your Rocklands, your Lincolns, stuff like that, they got back to school a little bit quicker. So that can kind of make the difference in some of this, right? Hey guys, hopefully you guys got everything out of this video you wanted. Like I said, I just want to do a quick comparison about what the real difference was between suburbs and the cities, and kind of the different challenges that we've seen our clients face, and what they've brought to our attention. Just want to have a genuine conversation about that. If you want more info, if you want to actually have a little bit more in-depth conversation, hit that 15-minute Zoom call up above. Phone numbers down below in the description, or you can even throw us a text. We'd love to help you out any way we can. Again, we are realtors and we do make these videos for you to get more information, but as much as we love making these videos, we'd love to help you out buy or sell a property even more. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.